full name and tell us where you live and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let us know what you want us to hear.
My name is Phil Waldron. I live in Texas, close to Mr. Ramsland out in Dripping Springs. So, my background is Army information operations, the intersection of computer network operations, electronic warfare, psychological operations, deception, and OPSEC. And my point of view of looking at these systems is how to penetrate them, how to corrupt them, how to manipulate them to conduct strategic influence operations. And in my opinion, this is the American people are under a pretty significant information warfare campaign that's multifaceted. And we've looked at the Dominion system. We've looked at the history of these electronic voting companies, and they're all pretty well related. They're connected by a common DNA, which is their software code. So this all started back with Smartmatic. It was designed basically to keep Hugo Chavez in power in Venezuela. He invested, I believe, 28% of the funds to stand the company up. And I personally debriefed the son of a Cuban intelligence officer who firsthand knowledge two of Hugo Chavez's family members when Maduro was faced by a populist uprising after Hugo Chavez had died. Two of Hugo Chavez's family members said, "Don't worry, it's guaranteed. Our father invested the money into Smartmatic so that Maduro is going to win." So I guess to connect all the dots, Dominion Voting Equipment acquired a company called Sequoia Voting Systems, which was spun off of SGO Smartmatic. And they also acquired the Premier system, which came from the Diebold election company, which also used Smartmatic software. ES&S software, which Mr. Ramsland mentioned, has a license agreement with Smartmatic, and so does Dominion. They all feed information to Clarity Elections, which is owned by a company called Scytl, SCYTL, which is headquartered in Madrid, Spain. They also have U.S. elections. Our team's recently uncovered, just doing basic investigative work on the dark web, but we have an affidavit to this effect that Smartmatic and Dominion do share a physical business address in Barbados at the same building, the same street address. So there are commonality in business links, licensing agreements, as well as the software code and the functionality. We began really looking at these as looking at the operator's manuals for these software systems, and just like President Chavez designed them for, they're designed to control and manipulate votes. And that's what we found reviewing these things.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
So, have you had an occasion to examine one of these Dominion machines?
Yes, sir. We did up in northern Michigan. Our team conducted forensics analysis on Central Lake Township Precinct in Antrim, Michigan, on the 27th of November.
Now, would you consider it to be a very insecure machine that can be accessed very easily?
Correct. These machines have been shown at DEF CON and hacking contests, and actually elementary school students to DEF CON guys can get in under 2 minutes. The elementary school kids can get in about 7 minutes to hack into the machines and take over their operating system.
This is contrary to the public statements that Dominion has made about their security. Isn't that correct?
There are about 12 different attack vectors or ways you can get into these systems. Everything from the server level to download CSV files, make changes to them, and re-upload them at the server level, to basically in the operating system of these machines. And what we found in Antrim, Michigan, is everybody's got thumb drives. But until you put one in your computer, you really don't know what's on there. That's a common vulnerability. And actually in the military, in our classified equipment systems, all of the USB ports are disabled because of the huge vulnerability represented by USB drives. So when the Antrim County, actually it was the township of Central Lake, They had finished their voting on the 3rd, stored all their ballots according to the policy and all of their chain of custody documents for the software. They got called back to do a rerun on November the 6th using the same voting data card, using the same encryption or the encryption software, but a different USB drive to run the totals. Their totals were significantly different, even in down ballot races. The presidential race, I think, was only different by a couple of 3 votes. And it was, again, a very, very small sample size, but school board elections, state propositions for spending, and marijuana bills changed the outcome of the vote in the rerun from November the 3rd to November the 6th. And again, this was one small precinct with a total of 1,494 votes. And basically what this does is put this system outside of the specificity limitations set forth in the federal election laws, that you're basically only allowed 1 out of 250,000 votes or ballots to have an error. And the error rate was far exceeded the allowable standard for this software.
Have you had an opportunity to examine any of the Dominion machines?
No, but we'd like to. The company stalls pretty much at every opportunity. They've included in their contracts, and I'm sure that it's the same in Georgia, that they want to control your votes, and they want to ensure that you can't inspect their software or how your votes are voted, where they're sent, and how they're stored. As a matter of fact, we just left Michigan early this morning and testifying before the House last night in Oakland County. If you actually click on their county election supervisor, you click on the 2020 election results, a warning flag pops up and it says you're exiting this site and you're going to Clarity Elections. So Clarity Elections is a subsidiary of Seidel, which provides the early voting logs to TVs, New York Times, all the mainstream media. Those votes from Oakland County, which was one of the biggest counties in Michigan, they're actually controlled, maintained, and owned by Clarity Elections. And it pops up on the website. We're going to take you to www.clarity-elections, and you can look that up on your computers if you'd like to.
So I would think this would come as quite a surprise to the people of Georgia or Michigan, or that their voting data is sent outside the United States, and also that their vote is being counted by a foreign company. Isn't that correct?
Clarity Elections is owned by Seidel, which is headquartered in Barcelona, Spain. Again, these companies have servers all over the world, and we came to the identity of, or saw the packet transfer to the server in Frankfurt. That was reported on the 8th, and then on the 9th, that server went offline. So we know from German cybersecurity professors that talked about the increase in the drastic increase in their traffic on November the 3rd and 4th, and he attributed the increase in traffic, in web traffic, to the American elections. So it was common knowledge that that server was processing a lot of American election data.
And one last question: Could you describe fractional voting?
So if all of us in this room, had one vote for one candidate, we would have the sum of the votes in this room. When the votes are reported to from Dominion to the media, they're reported in fractional numbers, 3 digits. So when you add whole numbers together, you can't get a fraction. When you calculate or have a formula or an algorithm to assign points to votes, then you get a fraction. So our voting results are reported in fractional values, not in whole numbers.
Senator Beach?
Yes, thank you, Colonel Walden, for your testimony. I voted on Election Day.
Senator, you need to speak into the microphone because otherwise you
Yes.
won't be picked up.
I vote, Colonel Waldron, Thank you for your testimony. I voted on election day, and I got a paper ballot. I scanned it, and on the scanner, it said I was number 78 at 9:05. So my question to you is, Ms. Pick was telling us in that video there were 3 scanners at the State Farm Arena. Is there a drive tape or a flash drive in a scanner that we could know if votes were counted between 10:30 and 1 a.m. on those 3 machines at State Farm Arena? Because my ballot told me I was cast at 9:05 and I was number 78 on the machine I scanned it in. So should we be able to have some data from those 3 scanners?
So those ballots, the paper is actually scanned into a ballot image, and the ballot image is actually what is counted for the vote. So each one of those machines do have logs, and they will transmit to a reporting upload time. It's my understanding, I believe Tuesday though, that the Fulton County machines were wiped. I heard a report of that. I don't know that. There are forensic artifacts that can be pulled off those machines, but really the place you would get that is under the U.S. Code. I believe it's Title 46. All federal election documents, whether they're paper or electronic, have to be maintained for 22 months. So if there's an archive, those ballot images will tell you the date timestamp on those, but someone would have to get a forensic access to that data and those machines, the tapes and the servers.
Some of what you said, portions of it, remind me of some of what we heard in testimony in various committees in 2019 when we were considering buying this new system. Actually, we did hear from a lot of election security experts, computer scientists, and I don't know if you're aware, but Democrats argued repeatedly and strongly against buying these due to their complexity, cost, and potential lapses in security.
That's correct.
We found over 200,000 mail-in ballots that, when we looked at the voter record, had supposedly never been returned, and yet they were voting. Now, about half of those ultimately got purged, but about 96,000 of those were never marked returned, and yet they were voted. And we have seen that in other areas of the country because it's very easy in the Dominion system to assign a person to a mail-in ballot inside the system itself.
Sir,
that's one possible explanation.
May I just interrupt with one question? To assign it that way would, of course, be fraudulent, wouldn't it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea. You just have a ballot in the adjudication file, for instance, and you decide to vote it, and you assign it to a voter.
How many times, approximately?
Well, there were about 96,000 of those that we found I think the exact, 96,600 was the exact number of mail-in ballots that were voted but were never actually shown as received back by the county.
So there's 96,600 votes that were counted, never received, and assigned somewhere, and these would have to be considered illegal votes, wouldn't they?
Right. And by the way, I would say this was not just mere oversight by 1 or 2 counties, because we saw this pretty much across the board. And so this was an across-the-board problem. And we also saw a couple other interesting things. We noticed that sometimes the ballot was actually shown as being voted before it was received back. There was a receive back date, but it was voted before the county received it back.
How could that be possible?
Well, you'll have to explain that one to me too, because it's not supposed to be that way.
Okay.
We also saw a situation where ballots were voted the exact same day that they were mailed out. So they were mailed in. Somehow they managed to make the round trip on the exact same day. We saw it happen just one day after, so that you mail it on a Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoon in the mail you got the ballot back. We just saw a lot of these kinds of problems with the mail-in ballot. But it was the 96,000 that were never received back that really jumped out at us in a big way.
give us your full name and tell us where you live, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let us know what you want us to hear.
My name is Phil Waldron. I live in Texas, close to Mr. Ramsland out in Dripping Springs. So, my background is Army information operations, the intersection of computer network operations, electronic warfare, psychological operations, deception, and OPSEC. And my point of view of looking at these systems is how to penetrate them, how to corrupt them, how to manipulate them to conduct strategic influence operations. And in my opinion, this is the American people are under a pretty significant information warfare campaign that's multifaceted. And we've looked at the Dominion system. We've looked